Evan was doing his job as a journalist. This is a fairly unprecedented situation since the Cold War, and it's very clear that these accusations are completely baseless. And I think on that basis, people have looked at this as a really important moment for journalism to stand up and make it clear that this is completely unacceptable.
Just to remind listeners, Evan is a widely respected foreign correspondent. He dropped out of contact on March the 28th while on an assignment. He's now in prison. Do we know how he is?
Yes, so he's been there for 2 weeks today. So he's already been there for 2 weeks. He's not been granted consular access yet. His lawyers have been in to see him. He is in good spirits and good health and is very appreciative of the outpouring of support that he's seeing. But as yet, there is no consular access that he's been given.
There's been international condemnation of his arrest. Big journalistic solidarity from publications across the world. Have you been struck by that?
Yes, look, I think it shows, first of all, quite how extraordinary this arrest is. Evan was doing his job as a journalist. This is a fairly unprecedented situation since the Cold War, and it's very clear that these accusations are completely baseless. And I think on that basis, people have looked at this as a really important moment for journalism to stand up and make it clear that this is completely unacceptable behaviour. And that's both diplomatic, but also from the journalistic community and Evan's friends as well.
His designation as wrongfully detained by the US State Department means the US can move more aggressively to secure his release. What does that mean in practice?
Well, so it means that the case transfers to the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, and that is a different part of the State Department. Most US citizens who are arrested abroad, they do not challenge it as wrongful arrest, whereas in this case, it moves to the Hostage Affairs unit, which is a very different opportunity for an attempt, negotiations to get him out over time.
His legal team have now launched an appeal. What's the feeling about how amenable Russia is going to be to sort of legal avenues?
Look, this is a case that is likely to be tried in secret, and so the appeal on the 18th of April is against his pretrial detainment. We will see what happens with that, but a lot of this is going to be done behind closed doors. So what that means, you can make your own mind up.
And it's worth pointing out just the context here, the remarkable context here. Evan is the first American journalist to have been detained in Russia on espionage charges since the Cold War. Does this suggest that, obviously, the geopolitical situation didn't deter Evan from doing his reporting, but what do you think this means for the future of Western journalists in Russia more broadly?
Well, look, it's completely chilling for reporters in Russia, both Russians and foreign journalists. And, we will continue to want to report on Russia as we always have done, but we just won't be able to do it on the ground. We're going to have to find other ways to tell that story, and we will continue to tell that story.
Well, Thorold Barker, editor of the Wall Street Journal for Europe, thanks very much for joining us on the Midday Update to talk us through the latest on the case of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who's now been designated wrongly detained by the Russian government. That's the classification that allows the US State Department to move more aggressively to secure his release.